Happiness isn't something you find one day. It's something you build every day. This book reveals the science and wisdom behind creating a life that feels truly fulfilling. Welcome to Summarize, where every great book is transformed into powerful, clear, and easy-to-digest audio summaries. Save time, learn faster, and upgrade your mind, one book at a time. This is Summarize. Wisdom made simple. If you'd like to go deeper, you can read the full book on Amazon or listen to it on Audible. I've added my affiliate links in the description below, including an Audible free trial, so you can enjoy the complete audiobook anytime, anywhere. Using these links helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Build the Life You Want is a thoughtful and practical exploration of happiness, emotional resilience, and human fulfillment, written by Oprah Winfrey and Harvard professor Arthur C. Brooks. The book challenges common misconceptions about happiness, particularly the belief that happiness is something achieved through success, wealth, or external validation. Instead, the authors argue that happiness is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and strengthened over time, regardless of circumstances. At the heart of the book is a simple but powerful idea. Happiness does not mean the absence of pain. Oprah and Brooks emphasize that suffering is an inevitable part of being human. Loss, disappointment, failure, and uncertainty are unavoidable, and anyone who promises a pain-free life is offering an illusion. Rather than trying to eliminate suffering, the book teaches readers how to build emotional strength and wisdom so that pain does not define or destroy them. Happiness, the authors explain, is about how we respond to suffering, not how successfully we avoid it. Arthur Brooks introduces the concept of happiness as a combination of enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Enjoyment refers to the pleasure we feel in the present moment. Satisfaction is how we evaluate our lives overall, and meaning comes from having a purpose larger than ourselves. When these three elements are balanced, people experience a deeper and more stable form of happiness. Problems arise when individuals chase only enjoyment or external success, while neglecting meaning and inner peace. Oprah contributes deeply personal reflections throughout the book, sharing how her own life, despite extraordinary success, has included deep pain, self-doubt, and moments of emotional struggle. She reinforces the idea that achievement alone does not create fulfillment. True happiness comes from alignment between values, actions, and inner truth. Oprah emphasizes that understanding oneself is the foundation of building a life worth living. Without self-awareness, people often pursue goals that leave them empty rather than fulfilled. One of the key themes introduced early in the book is the misunderstanding of happiness as a permanent emotional state. Many people believe happiness means feeling good all the time, but this expectation sets them up for disappointment. The authors explain that emotions are temporary by nature. Sadness, anger, fear, and joy come and go. Expecting constant happiness creates frustration and self-judgment when negative emotions inevitably appear. Instead, happiness should be understood as a long-term sense of well-being that coexists with difficult emotions. The book also explores how modern culture contributes to unhappiness. Constant comparison, social media, consumerism, and the pressure to appear successful all distort people's understanding of a good life. Oprah and Brooks explain that comparison is one of the fastest ways to undermine happiness because it shifts focus away from personal values and toward external approval. When individuals measure their worth against others, they lose clarity about what truly matters to them. Another foundational idea introduced is emotional flexibility. The authors explain that emotionally healthy people are not those who avoid pain, but those who can experience emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Emotional flexibility allows individuals to feel sadness without despair, fear without paralysis, and disappointment without hopelessness. This skill is developed through awareness, acceptance, and intentional practice, rather than suppression or denial of feelings. Arthur Brooks brings scientific research into the discussion, explaining how the brain responds to stress, pleasure, and meaning. He highlights that chasing pleasure alone can actually reduce long-term happiness by creating dependency and diminishing returns. When people rely solely on external rewards for happiness, they become more vulnerable to anxiety and dissatisfaction. In contrast, cultivating meaning, connection, and purpose creates resilience and emotional stability. Oprah reinforces this scientific perspective with lived experience, emphasizing that joy and fulfillment often emerge from the simplest moments: authentic conversations, acts of kindness, gratitude, and self-acceptance. She explains that learning to appreciate ordinary moments helps individuals stay grounded and present, rather than constantly chasing future achievements. A significant portion of this first section focuses on the idea of agency. Oprah and Brooks stress that while people cannot control everything that happens to them, they can control how they respond. Taking responsibility for emotional responses empowers individuals to build better habits, healthier relationships, and more meaningful lives. This sense of agency is essential for happiness because it shifts people from feeling like victims of circumstances to active participants in their own lives. The authors also introduce the importance of intentional living. Happiness does not happen by accident. It is built through daily choices, habits, and perspectives. Small decisions, how we treat others, how we talk to ourselves, how we spend our time, gradually shape the quality of our lives. Over time, these choices compound into either fulfillment or dissatisfaction. Another early theme is self-compassion. Oprah emphasizes that many people are harder on themselves than on anyone else. Self-criticism is often mistaken for motivation, but it actually undermines confidence and resilience. Learning to treat oneself with kindness, especially during failure or struggle, is essential for emotional well-being. Self-compassion does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means responding to mistakes with understanding rather than shame. As the first part of the book concludes, Oprah and Brooks make it clear that building a good life is not about fixing everything at once. It is about understanding the emotional tools available to us and learning how to apply them consistently. Happiness is not a destination reached through perfection. It is a process built through awareness, purpose, connection, and resilience. This opening section lays the foundation for the rest of the book by redefining happiness, normalizing suffering, and emphasizing personal responsibility. It invites readers to stop chasing unrealistic ideals and instead begin the meaningful work of building a life rooted in clarity, purpose, and emotional strength. In the second part of Build the Life You Want, Oprah Winfrey and Arthur Brooks move from understanding happiness to actively cultivating it through emotional mastery and daily habits. They emphasize that happiness is not an abstract concept or a lucky outcome, but a skill that can be practiced and strengthened over time. Just as physical fitness requires consistent effort, emotional well-being depends on awareness, discipline, and intentional choices. A major focus in this section is learning how to work with emotions rather than fighting them. The authors explain that many people misunderstand happiness as the absence of negative emotions. In reality, a meaningful life includes sadness, fear, frustration, and disappointment. Trying to eliminate negative emotions often leads to suppression, denial, or emotional burnout. Instead, Oprah and Brooks encourage emotional literacy, the ability to recognize, name, and understand emotions without judgment. When emotions are acknowledged rather than resisted, they lose their power to control behavior. The book introduces the idea that emotions are information, not commands. Feelings such as anger or anxiety are signals that something needs attention, not instructions to act impulsively. By creating space between emotion and reaction, individuals gain agency over their choices. This pause allows for wiser responses instead of habitual reactions. Emotional mastery, the authors argue, is one of the most important foundations for long-term happiness. Another critical theme in this section is the role of habits in shaping life satisfaction. Oprah and Brooks emphasize that happiness is built in ordinary moments, not dramatic breakthroughs. Daily routines, how people start their mornings, manage stress, speak to themselves, and interact with others, compound over time to create either fulfillment or dissatisfaction. Small, consistent habits aligned with values can radically transform emotional well-being. The authors stress the importance of intentional structure in daily life. Without structure, people drift toward distraction, overwork, or numbing behaviors. With thoughtful routines, individuals create stability and predictability that reduce anxiety and decision fatigue. Simple practices such as regular reflection, exercise, gratitude journaling, or or quiet time help regulate emotions and maintain clarity in a chaotic world. A particularly powerful concept discussed is the difference between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure is short-term, sensory, and often addictive, while happiness is long-term, meaningful, and sustainable. Pleasure alone cannot build a fulfilling life, and when pursued excessively, it often leads to emptiness. True happiness comes from engagement, purpose, and connection. The authors caution against confusing constant stimulation with genuine well-being, especially in a culture dominated by social media and instant gratification. Relationships take center stage in this part of the book. Oprah and Brooks assert that no amount of personal success can compensate for broken or shallow relationships. Human connection is the strongest predictor of happiness across cultures and lifespans. However, relationships require intentional effort, emotional honesty, and boundaries. The authors encourage readers to evaluate which relationships nourish growth and which ones drain energy or reinforce unhealthy patterns. The book explores the importance of love in its various forms: romantic love, friendship, family bonds, and compassionate love for humanity. Love is described not merely as an emotion, but as a practice that involves patience, forgiveness, empathy, and commitment. Strong relationships are built through consistent presence, deep listening, and mutual respect. The authors highlight that investing in relationships is not a distraction from success. It is a cornerstone of a meaningful life. Another key theme in this section is self-talk and internal narrative. Oprah and Brooks explain that the stories people tell themselves shape their emotional reality. Negative self-talk reinforces fear, inadequacy, and hopelessness, while compassionate self-dialogue fosters resilience and confidence. Learning to observe thoughts rather than blindly believing them is a powerful step toward emotional freedom. The authors encourage replacing harsh self-judgment with curiosity and kindness. This part also addresses the challenge of comparison. Constant comparison, especially amplified by social media, undermines happiness by creating unrealistic standards and perpetual dissatisfaction. The authors argue that comparison shifts focus away from personal values and progress, trapping individuals in a cycle of envy and self-doubt. Freedom from comparison comes from clarity about what truly matters and from measuring life by internal alignment rather than external approval. Oprah brings a deeply personal perspective to the discussion of alignment and authenticity. She emphasizes that living out of alignment with one's values leads to inner conflict, exhaustion, and dissatisfaction, even if outward success is achieved. Alignment occurs when actions, beliefs, and priorities are consistent. When people honor their truth, they experience greater peace and confidence, regardless of external outcomes. The book also highlights the importance of service and contribution as sources of happiness. Helping others, mentoring, volunteering, or contributing to a cause larger than oneself activates a sense of meaning that pleasure alone cannot provide. Oprah and Brooks explain that service shifts focus away from self-obsession and toward connection, gratitude, and purpose. Contribution is not about self-sacrifice to the point of burnout, but about using one's gifts to create positive impact. Throughout this section, the authors emphasize that building a happy life requires patience and compassion. There is no perfect formula or permanent state of bliss. Happiness fluctuates, and setbacks are inevitable. What matters is commitment to the process rather than obsession with outcomes. Emotional well-being is built through repeated choices to show up, reflect, adjust, and grow. Oprah Winfrey and Arthur Brooks bring together all the emotional, psychological, and philosophical insights from the book to focus on what ultimately gives life meaning. They emphasize that happiness alone is not enough. Pleasure, comfort, and even success can feel empty if they are not grounded in purpose. A meaningful life, they argue, is built when happiness is combined with contribution, values, and service to something greater than oneself. The authors explain that meaning comes from commitment to people, principles, and causes. While happiness can fluctuate based on circumstances, meaning provides stability during hardship. People who feel their lives matter are more resilient in the face of pain, loss, and uncertainty. Oprah reflects on how purpose has been the anchor throughout her life, guiding her decisions and helping her endure adversity. Brooks reinforces this with research showing that people who pursue meaning experience deeper life satisfaction than those who chase pleasure alone. A central idea in this section is that service is one of the most reliable paths to meaning. Helping others, through kindness, mentorship, creativity, or contribution, creates a sense of usefulness and belonging. The authors argue that humans are wired to matter to one another. When individuals feel needed and valuable to others, they experience deeper fulfillment. Service shifts focus away from obsessive self-concern and toward connection, gratitude, and compassion. The book also discusses how purpose evolves over time. What gives life meaning at one stage may change at another. Oprah and Brooks stress the importance of letting go of outdated identities and goals that no longer serve growth. Many people suffer because they cling to former definitions of success or self-worth. A fulfilling life requires periodic reassessment, asking what matters now, not what mattered before. Growth, they argue, requires courage to release the past and openness to reinvention. Another key theme in this part is alignment between values and daily actions. Meaning is not found in grand gestures alone, but in how people live each day. When actions consistently reflect core values, honesty, compassion, integrity, curiosity, life feels coherent and grounded. Conversely, when people live in conflict with their values, they experience inner tension, dissatisfaction, and emotional fatigue. The authors encourage readers to identify their deepest values and consciously structure their lives around them. Oprah and Brooks also return to the role of relationships in a meaningful life. They emphasize that love, friendship, and community are not optional extras, but essential pillars of fulfillment. Meaning deepens when individuals invest in relationships that are based on trust, vulnerability, and mutual care. Isolation, even when paired with success, leads to emptiness. True success, they argue, is being deeply connected to others while living in alignment with one's values. The authors address the fear of aging, loss, and mortality with honesty and wisdom. Rather than avoiding these realities, they encourage readers to face them with acceptance. Awareness of life's impermanence can deepen appreciation, sharpen priorities, and inspire intentional living. Meaning grows when people recognize that time is limited and choose to spend it on what truly matters rather than on approval, comparison, or constant achievement. Faith, spirituality, and transcendence are also explored as sources of meaning. While the book does not promote a single belief system, it acknowledges that many people find strength and clarity through spiritual practices, reflection, or connection to something larger than themselves. Whether through faith, philosophy, nature, or creativity, transcendence helps individuals place their struggles in a broader perspective and find peace amid uncertainty. In the final reflections, Oprah and Brooks emphasize that building a meaningful life is not about perfection or constant happiness. It is about progress, awareness, and choice. Life will always include pain, disappointment, and loss, but meaning allows people to endure suffering without being defined by it. By choosing love over fear, service over self-absorption, and values over validation, individuals create lives that feel rich, purposeful, and deeply human. The book ultimately leaves readers with a powerful message. A good life is built, not found. Happiness, resilience, meaning, and love are skills that can be practiced daily. Through intentional habits, emotional mastery, strong relationships, and service to others, anyone, regardless of background or circumstance, can build a life they truly want. Want the complete insights from this book? Check out the links in the description to get your copy on Amazon, or listen on Audible with a free trial. Perfect for learning while commuting, working out, or relaxing at home. Using these links supports the channel and helps me bring you more great summaries at no extra cost. Keep listening to Summarize. If you enjoyed this summary, support the channel by liking and subscribing. It helps the knowledge reach more people. Until next time, keep learning.